They didn't notice the change at first. Jack still joked, still teased, still slipped in barbs like tiny needles coated in sugar. But the timing was wrong. The smile stayed a second too long. The jokes hit a little too hard. The silences afterward stretched thinner and thinner. No one said anything. That was their first mistake. Day 12. Something fractures. Pomni found Jax sitting alone in the atrium. Not lounging, not smirking, not plotting anything. Just sitting, back hunched, eyes unfocused, ears drooping slightly. She approached slowly. Jax, are you? I'm fine. He said it too quickly, too cleanly. Pomni didn't push. That was her second mistake. Because when he stood, the light behind him flickered sharply, like something glitching under his skin, and his smile didn't reach his eyes. Ragatha knocked softly on Jax's door. No answer. She knocked harder. Still nothing. The third knock pushed the door open. He hadn't locked it. Inside was a mess of half-started pranks he'd never finished. Paint cans, rubber chickens, a stack of cards scattered on the floor, and Jax himself, sitting on the floor, knees pulled up, head buried in his arms. Ragatha stepped forward gently. Jax. He didn't look up. You're gonna tell Kane, aren't you? He muttered. Voice rough, hollow, not like him at all. Ragatha froze. Tell Kane what? That I'm breaking. Day 23. Nobody knows what to do. He stopped making jokes. Stopped teasing. Stopped talking unless he had to. Stopped eating the conjured meals that didn't taste like anything anyway. Pomni watched him during group activities. He stayed at the far edge, shadows pooling under his eyes, moving too quietly for someone who used to bounce around with obnoxious confidence. Sometimes he would stare into a corner, just stare, like something was whispering back. And once, late at night, Pomni heard him whisper into the darkness, I know you're there. Just come take me already. She didn't confront him. That was her third mistake. Day 29, Kane notices. The ringmaster materialized mid-scene, much earlier than usual. Everyone, Kane announced cheerfully. Today's fun activity is. He stopped. His gaze landed on Jax. The cheer flickered. Kane said softly. That's not right. He floated closer, eyes narrowing as though scanning Jax's code. Jax didn't react. He stood rigid, breathing shallow, eyes distant. Kane's voice softened. Jax, look at me. Jax didn't. Something in Kane's expression shifted into something rarely seen. Fear. He turned to the group. Everyone, please leave the room. Pomni stepped forward instantly. Why? What's wrong with him? Kane's cheerful voice trembled. His code is collapsing inward. He's imploding. Emotionally first, then structurally. If he keeps going, he'll abstract. Pomni felt her stomach drop. But we can fix that, right? Silence. Kane looked at her. Truly looked. I don't know, he admitted. Day 34. The way silence screams. Jax barely spoke anymore. When he did, it was soft. Soft like someone speaking through glass. Pomni visited his room often. He never asked her to leave, but he never asked her to stay either. She'd sit on the floor while he lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. Sometimes he'd whisper things, not to her, to himself. If I don't exist, nothing hurts. I don't know why I'm still here. I can't feel anything. I can't feel anything. Pomni would sit there, heart breaking silently, trying to think of something, anything, that could help. But nothing did. The digital circus wasn't built for healing, just distraction. And distraction can't save someone who's already sinking. Day 41, slipping. Jax disappeared for 3 hours. Kane found him eventually, standing at the very edge of a generated void scene, staring down into the endless static like it was calling his name. When they brought him back, he laughed once. A short, broken sound. Was curious, he muttered. Didn't jump. Pomni nearly sobbed. Jack shrugged like he'd done nothing unusual. I wasn't scared, he said. I figured if the void wants me, it'll come get me anyway. Kane pulled Pomni aside, voice grim. He's losing anchor, he whispered. His existence is becoming optional. Pomni shook. Then fix him. I can't force someone to want to stay, Kane said quietly. Day 50, the breaking point. Jack sat cross-legged on the floor, staring at his hands. There's nothing wrong with me, he said calmly. Pomni sat beside him. Jax. He tilted his head, studying his own fingertips like they belonged to someone else. I just don't feel real anymore, he murmured. That's all. Pomni's breath hitched. Jax, please. It's okay, he said simply, like he was talking about sleep, or weather, or the end of everything. One of us had to go first. He looked up then, really looked at her, and his eyes were empty, completely. To be honest, he whispered, I thought it'd be me. Pomni grabbed his arm. Don't say that. His voice didn't change, didn't rise, didn't break. I'm not saying it to upset you. I'm saying it because it's true. A glitch flickered under his skin, the first sign of abstraction. Pomni's chest tightened in terror. Jax, she breathed. He blinked slowly, almost peacefully. I'm tired. And this time, there was no joke underneath it. Only truth. Raw, quiet, devastating truth. Jax didn't fall asleep that night. Pomni stayed with him anyway, sitting cross-legged on the floor while he leaned back against the wall, eyes glazed over and unfocused. Every minute or so, his form flickered, barely noticeable. But each flicker lasted a little longer than the last. He didn't comment on it. That scared her more than anything. At some point, Pomni whispered, Do you want to talk? Jax's response was delayed, slow, like it took effort to pull the words out. Talking doesn't fix code. That's not what I meant. He tilted his head toward her, just barely. Then what did you mean? That you don't have to sit in this alone. He exhaled, long and shaky. For a moment, she thought he would shut down again. But instead, he asked quietly, Pomni, do you ever wonder if we matter here? Her stomach twisted. Of course we do. To who? He looked at his hands. Kane? He doesn't even understand what dying means. The others? They're just waiting their turn to break. And me? His voice trembled, like something inside him was slipping. I'm already halfway there. A glitch crawled up his arm. She reached for him. He didn't pull away, but he didn't react either. Pomni swallowed hard. Jax, please. Stay with me. Stay here. He blinked slowly. I'm trying. Another flicker. His outline buckled, distorting for a full second before stabilizing. Pomni's breath caught. That wasn't normal glitching. That was the beginning. Jax stared at the glitch on his arm, expression detached. almost accepting. Pomni, he said softly. Yes. If I go, you have to promise me something. Pomni felt cold all over. What? He lifted his eyes to hers, and for a split second, they were bright, clear, alive. Don't let them remember me like I was already gone. Pomni shook her head, choking on her words. No, no, Jax, don't talk like that, don't. But he wasn't listening anymore. Something in him dimmed. The light behind his eyes faded, and then his entire right side glitched violently, tearing into static, for a full heartbeat before snapping, back as if stitched together wrong. Pomni's scream cracked in her throat. Jax gasped, grabbing his head. His voice trembled, thin and frightened. Pomni, something's wrong. She grabbed his shoulders. Look at me. Jax, look at me. His breathing hitched. His outline jittered like a corrupted frame. I didn't think it would hurt. Tears welled in Pomni's eyes. Please, she begged. Don't disappear. Please, please. Jax clenched his jaw, shaking violently. Pomni, A glitch rippled through him so hard she felt the static in her teeth. He choked, a sound halfway between panic and resignation. And then everything inside him collapsed. His body shuddered, color draining, lines dissolving into swirling geometric distortion. Jax whispered one last thing, barely audible. I'm sorry. And the room filled with the sound of tearing code. Pomni's scream echoed through the hallways.
Watch vid for next for minutes. I messed the audio up lol.
Do it. Pomni shoved him. Dio, whatever it takes. Kane drifted back, strangely quiet. He looked down at Jax, who let out another pained groan. I can transfer his core into a temporary holding construct, Kane said slowly, but I cannot guarantee he'll survive the transfer. And if he does, he may not wake up. Pomni fell to her knees again, gripping Jax's glitching hand. He looked up at her, half blind. Sea cold. Pomni broke. Please, she whispered. Please don't leave me. Jax's eye flickered. Softly. Dee don't want to. He reached for her, but his hand dissolved into static halfway there. Pomni sobbed into his chest, her voice cracking. Kane, do it. Please. Kane nodded slowly. All players, stand back. Ragatha pulled Pomni away, holding her tightly while Pomni tried to fight her grip. No, Ragatha. No. I promised him I'd stay. Ragatha whispered fiercely. You are staying. Someone has to catch him when he comes back. Kane lowered a glowing orb to Jax's chest. The air trembled. Jax's body flickered again. Then again, each time dimmer. Pomni buried her face in Ragatha's shoulder, trembling violently. Jax, she whispered, please come back. The light intensified. Code unraveled. Jax's body started dissolving into drifting fragments of static. Pomni screamed his name, and then everything went white. The white light swallowed everything. Sound, color, sensation. For a moment, the world felt erased. When the brightness finally faded, the room snapped back into existence with a heavy, echoing silence. The static haze that had once been Jax was gone. In his place sat a small floating prism, pulsing weakly like a dying heartbeat. The light inside it flickered in uneven, trembling rhythms. Pomni froze. That's him, she whispered, voice raw. Kane lowered his head, his core file, extracted seconds before total collapse. He hesitated. Without that, he would no longer exist in any form. Pomni stumbled toward the prism. Reaching out, her hands shook too hard to touch it. The prism pulsed gently when she got close, as if recognizing her presence. Ragatha whispered, "Oh, honey." Zoable hovered behind them, quiet for once. Even Gangle couldn't speak. Her tragedy mask hung crooked, soaked with drawn-on tears. Pomni finally pressed her palm against the prism's surface. It was warm. Jax, she whispered, almost a prayer. You're in there. I know you are. The prism flickered in response, weak, but real. Kane flinched. He's fading. The structure won't hold forever. I need time to stabilize it. How long? Zobel asked. Kane's face twisted. Hours. Maybe more. Pomni didn't move her hand. Then get started. Kane hesitated again. Pomni, I must warn you. Even if the transfer works, his personality threads may not reconnect. He may come back fragmented or incomplete. Pomni's eyes hardened with a determination none of them had ever seen from her. Bring him back anyway. Kane nodded and floated away, the prism, following like a fragile lantern. Pomni took a step after them, but Ragatha stopped her gently. Sweetheart, let him work. Pomni's voice cracked. I promised him I wouldn't leave again. Ragatha held her shoulders with steady, warm hands. And you aren't. You're waiting. That counts. Hours dragged by like days. The cast stayed together in the common room. No one suggested they leave. No one could. The air felt heavy, every second stretching thin with fear. Pomni sat curled on the couch, staring at nothing. Her knees were pulled to her chest. Her hands clenched so tight her fingers trembled. Ragatha sat beside her, rubbing slow circles on her back. Gangle sat on the floor, hugging both masks at once. Zoable paced, restless, unable to hide their own fear. Every few minutes, Pomni whispered, "He's going to make it." Nobody contradicted her. Minutes blurred into hours. Eventually, the room brightened with a sudden ripple of colorful light. Kane's arrival. Pomni shot upward instantly. Is he? Did he? Kane held up the prism. Its glow was stronger now. Steadier. Alive. I've stabilized his core, Kane said softly. His consciousness is attempting to reassemble. Very slowly. Pomni nearly collapsed with relief. Can he hear me? She whispered. Kane floated closer. Yes, in fragments. He will not be able to respond yet, but your voice will reach him. Pomni took the prism gently into her hands, cradling it against her chest like something precious. She breathed shakily, eyes welling again, but not with despair this time. Hey, Jax, she whispered, voice trembling but warm. You're okay. You made it, and I'm not going anywhere. Not now, not ever. The prism glowed, soft, warm, unmistakably responsive, and for the first time in hours, Pomni smiled. The next full day passed in a slow rhythm of waiting, watching, hoping. Jax's prism remained warm in Pomni's hands, glowing just enough to prove he was still fighting somewhere inside. She barely slept. Every time her eyes closed even for a second, she jolted awake, terrified he would fade without her noticing. But he didn't. By the following morning, Kane drifted in with cautious optimism. I think he's ready, he said, gesturing toward an empty platform. Pomni stood immediately, clutching the prism to her chest. Ready to come back? Kane nodded. I cannot promise perfection, but yes, he has stabilized enough for reconstruction. The others gathered around her, silent but supportive. Ragatha squeezed Pomni's shoulder. Zoable muttered something about finally. Gangle held both masks close, trembling. Kane lifted the prism into the air. Its light intensified, pulsing like a heartbeat. And then the world filled with that same white glow. Softer this time, gentler. When the light faded, a silhouette stood on the platform. Tall, bent slightly at the knees. Familiar. Jax. His colors were dimmer, his lines softer and slower, but he was there. Real. Whole enough. He blinked once. Twice. His form flickered, not dangerously, just unsteady. Then his gaze landed on Pomni. Hey, he whispered, voice hoarse and small. Pomni collapsed forward in relief. catching him around the middle before his knees buckled entirely. He leaned heavily into her, shaking like a newborn fawn. "You're okay," she sobbed. "You're actually, Jax, you're not fully," he murmured, trying and failing to smirk. "But close enough." Ragatha cried openly. Zobel pretended not to wipe their eye. Even Gangle's tragedy mask softened. Kane excused himself quietly. "You all deserve this moment." Jack sat with Pomni for hours afterward in the common room. Wrapped in a blanket, Ragatha insisted on draping over him. His glitches were mild now, little flickers, when he pushed himself too hard, but he stayed stable. Pomni kept close, always within arm's reach. He didn't complain. At one point he whispered, "I heard you, all of you, when I was gone." Pomni's breath hitched. "You did." He nodded lightly. "It wasn't words, more like warmth, pulling me back." She swallowed hard. "We thought we were losing you. You almost did." He leaned against her shoulder, exhausted. "But I didn't want to go. Not anymore." Pommi's voice cracked. "What changed?" Jax considered, then shrugged softly. "You cared," he said simply, "and I realized I wanted to be someone worth caring about." Pommi's eyes stung. "You already were." He didn't answer. He just rested his head against her, letting the moment breathe. For once, Jax didn't joke. He didn't deflect. He didn't run. He stayed. That night, Pomni found him half asleep on the couch, flickering slightly but stable. She sat beside him, pulling the blanket higher around his shoulders. Jax peeked one eye open. "You're still here," he murmured,